Now come on, come all to this tragic affair. Wipe off that makeup, what's in is despair. So throw on the black dress, mix in with the lot. You might wake up and notice you're someone you're not.
Hey, Paul. It is Wednesday, what is it? Wednesday, the 8th of July, about 10 to 9 in the evening. I'm sitting out here just drinking some Sheng with my buddy Eugene.
Hello, Paul.
You probably don't know. I don't think you know Eugene, but he's not one to blow his own horn, so I'm going to blow it for him. So Eugene is one of my favorite monkeys.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that sentence.
I mean, he's not just a great guy. You are a great guy.
I'm not a great guy.
You are.
I'm a depressive, realist, deeply pessimistic.
He's one of my favorite
bordering on
monkeys.
Nihilistic, anti-humanist.
But beyond being one of my favorite monkeys, the reason why I've brought him out for this video is you are.
You say that to all the monkeys.
The reason why I've brought him out for this video is because also Eugene is one of my favorite philosophers. He's written, texts that I consider to be canonical.
Oh,
I have talked a bit about canonicity.
Yeah.
Some of my favorites, right? In the Dust of the Planet.
Fuck this guy.
Radiolab,
Yeah.
right? They once did a...
Oh, wait, you're listening?
Okay.
All right.
They once did a
That really helped to shift some
program on Eugene's book. Didn't they, Eugene? Yes, you got a Radiolab program. Yeah. Probably one of my all-time favorites, Infinite Resignation. Sad Planets, which is brilliant. Brilliant.
I'm
going to give Eugene a prompt, and hopefully, Eugene, using Fable 5, he's gonna do a takedown of the three main creeds of humanism. Ah, you've noticed. Yeah, the reason I've changed headphones is because on this day, this evening, at this exact time, My Chemical Romance are about a mile away in Wembley Stadium playing the first of their 3 nights that they're going to be playing. And I have a bit of a soft spot for My Chemical Romance. I haven't listened to the Black Parade for ages and ages, but one of my clients who's going to see the gig, and it's just given me a real desire to listen to My Chemical Romance. But I will stick around, have a bit of green, and listen to the first part of your lecture, I guess, and then I'm going to listen to a bit of Chemical Romance. Is that okay?
Okie dokie. The first humanist creed we need to give a bit of a shakedown. Nietzsche would argue that what we call truths are illusions we have forgotten are illusions. Metaphors worn smooth by centuries of use until they feel like discoveries. To us, but there's no there, no real meaning in these humanist truths. Meaning was never found in the world, it was fabricated by us. It is a human product, and then we conveniently forgot the fabrication. The fabrication of these so-called truths, all this humanist blah blah, comes from the fact that humans are the animal that cannot encounter silence without filling it with a voice, their own voice, dressed up as the world's. Meaning-making is not our achievement, but a kind of nervous or nervy human-animal reflex. This reflex has a cause: consciousness. Consciousness is an evolutionary overreach, a brain grown too aware for its own good, generating a demand for significance the world cannot, in and of itself, supply. The hunger for meaning is a byproduct of surplus awareness, but not in any way a memo from reality itself. This somewhat absurd state of affairs, meaning the spandrel, the offcut, the accident of the blueprint, is not a tragedy but a mismatch. We human creatures demanding meaning, colliding with a universe that has none to offer, and nothing broken except the fit between them. The demand is real, the silence is real, only their marriage was imaginary. Look beneath the demand only to discover blind will, striving without an object, force without a purpose, the same pushing that swells a seed or splits a fence post. Meaning is the story consciousness tells about a drive, which is to say whatever inner motivation, whatever phenomenological raw insistence, actually gets us to post a piece of shitty content and call it a video, or leave it on a hard drive somewhere waiting for its debut. Even inside language, meaning never arrives. The signifier slides endlessly over the signified, each word deferring to the next word, forever. Meaning is the retroactive illusion the chain produces. There is no moment where the spoken word touches the actual thing. It could never have been otherwise, because the sense of the world must lie outside the world. Facts are all a world can contain, and value is not among these facts. Meaning is not hidden in things. It is not the kind of thing things can actually hold. Even the mystical hope that things possess an expressive essence, straining toward the name, collapses on inspection. The human does not receive the language of things, but judges and labels them. Naming is a falling away from relation, not an arrival at it. And suffering, the place we most insist on finding meaning. All our trauma stories about growing up Mormon, or being the only gay or weirdo immigrant in the village, refuses to yield any meaning. Existence is a wound with no lesson attached. The demand that pain cash out into insight is the demand the universe has most consistently declined, because the deepest problem is not that the world stays silent. Silence would still imply someone declining to speak. The world without us is not meaningless, but meaning-proof, structurally outside the entire economy of sender, message, and receiver. Which means meaning was always a category confusion at cosmic scale. We mistook a feature of primate social cognition, the reflex of reading intentions everywhere, for a property of reality itself. The universe never had any intentions for it to be read. Meaning is just a felt microclimate, a squall in one species of ape, as real as weather and exactly as cosmically significant. Right, that's meaning dispatched onto mastery. Mastery. The oldest self-flattery, that humans stand outside nature as a kingdom within a kingdom, free agents commanding a causal order they do not belong to. In fact, every act follows necessarily from prior causes, the same way the fence panel falls because of rot and weather and gravity, not because it chose to. Freedom is just the name we give our ignorance of what moves us, a compliment we pay ourselves for not knowing the mechanism. Even at home, no one is in charge. The ego is not master in its own house, trailing behind unconscious processes it did not originate and can barely observe. Consciousness experiences itself as the pilot, while riding as a passenger, and reason, the supposed instrument of mastery, always arrives after the act. Reason is the press secretary, not the president. We do what we were already going to do. Reason runs along behind like a little sycophantic dog or a piece of AI drafting the justification rather than the deed. Even worse than that, the will itself is not a continuous thing that could in any way claim mastery. The will is a succession of episodes, flickering, retroactively narrated into a self that decided. There is no ongoing commander, only the story of this so-called commander. And the self-anointed commanding human subject is itself manufactured, entirely manufactured. The sovereign self is an effect of power, produced by the very institutions and discourses it believes it directs. You are not the author of the frame, you are one of its characters. Even the word author was the frame's idea. Zoom out and agency dissolves further. Every outcome is distributed across a mesh of actors, human and otherwise. The rot doesn't ask permission. The frost gets a vote you never counted. Mastery imagines a single author where there's only a network. Similarly, the mastered object never even shows up for the mastering. Things withdraw from every relation, including use and knowledge. What you own, name, or control is only ever a surface translation. The fence in itself remains untouched by the deed of painting it. Technological mastery, idiot humans, is the deepest concealment of all. It does not reveal the world, but enframes it, converting rivers, forests, and eventually people into standing reserve, stock awaiting use. The more totally we command, the less of the world we can see. This drive to master and accumulate, even as you said, Paul, in your five-ish way with knowledge, is itself a repression, a refusal of the real economy of existence, which runs on expenditure, waste, and loss. Ownership is just entropy denial with paperwork. Ecologically, the mask slips entirely. The self-styled steward of nature behaves, at species scale, exactly like any other successful organism, proliferating, consuming, extracting, destabilizing its own habitat. Homo sapiens, mastery is the flattering name for a very ordinary, thoroughly rapacious plague of human vermin. No better than rats, locusts, cane toads, grey squirrels, and Japanese knotweed. Command grows, the commander becomes, how shall we put it, ever more incompetent. Or, as Steve would say, a total, unmitigated, 5-star, blue-ribbon, PhD-level world-class fuckwit. And finally, good old, much-vaunted, ever-receding progress. Progress. Let's begin with the genealogy of this one. Progress is Christianity in secular dress. Salvation relocated from heaven to history. Redemption reassigned from God to science. reason, or the market. The congregation has simply changed costume in order to leave behind any inconvenient moral imperative our historical faiths tried to get us to adhere to, while the faith itself, now genuflecting to GDP, Silicon Valley, the algorithm, kept its structure, just transposed into a technological key. But the yardstick was never there. Moral progress assumes a single scale of value running through history, when values are made, contested, and overturned. There is no neutral measure by which later can in any way be certified as better. In 100 years, if you humans even make it to 2126, which is highly unlikely, people might look back on factory farming the way we now look back on owning slaves. But right now, apart from a tiny minority written off as virtue-signaling idiots, everyone else agrees. Killing and torturing billions of fellow creatures to get a nice taste in our mouths is not a failure of progress. It's proof of it. Look, we can feed the whole precious human race by torturing millions of animals a day. Yay, humanity. Yay, progress. Which is to say that the gains never ratchet. Knowledge accumulates, but ethics and politics do not. 50 years of civility can be lost in an afternoon when Donald Trump, or one of the other fuckwits we all vote into office to do our dirty work, picks up the phone and barks some bullshit into the ear of another human idiot. There is no floor beneath which humanity cannot fall back. History? History has no direction to progress along anyway. Civilizations are organisms, birth, flowering, decay, and the road forward is a line drawn through what is actually seasons. Progress is sheer linearity, imposed on recurrence. The precious jewel of so-called enlightenment, progress's own engine, carries its reversal inside it, the same rationality that gave the light bulb gave us the concentration camp, not as failure, but as another self-serving human product. Domination is imminent to the instrument, not a misuse of it. Progress always emerges as the victor's word. History, written by the winners presenting their contingent triumph as necessity, and the wreckage of the defeated as the acceptable cost of the road. Hence the truest image of this whole idea. Hence the truest image of this whole idea, or ideal. An angel facing backward, watching wreckage pile on wreckage, blown irresistibly into a future it cannot see by this idiotic wind we call progress. Progress is not the angel's direction, it's just one of God's farts at its back. Underneath all of this, the machinery never changes. The drives, fears, and tribal loyalties of the animal remain constant beneath every new technology. So each advance is merely pandering to an old appetite, but now with new, devastatingly global reach. The Stone Age heart and the Stone Age belly operate the satellite, the algorithm, and the drone. Even the improving self, the self-optimizing creature every piece of content on this platform seems hell-bent on manufacturing, is a fiction of the same order. There is no stable humanity being perfected across time, only successions of animals telling continuity stories, the species-level version of the self that decided. The ideology of therapy now canonizes this self, even though its own creator Freud warned us. A warning we no longer heed, that the best any of us can hope for is to trade neurotic misery for ordinary, run-of-the-mill, you're not special, your trauma isn't special, or a get-out-of-ego jail free card unhappiness. Not transformation. Not your best self. Just one privileged, bourgeois ape with too much time on its hands, paying another privileged ape to have the fiction of itself revarnished, 50 minutes at a time, so it can walk back out into the world and keep telling itself the story it's paying to have polished. Utopia, whether it's Silicon Valley's AI utopianism or the older eugenicist model, progress's so-called destination is therefore its most dangerous export. Every project to remake humanity assumes humans can be remade. But this assumption has a body count. The dream of redemption through history is the modern age's most lethal inheritance from faith. So at the largest scale, the whole category of progress dissolves. If the world without us is real, there is no toward available, no direction the universe could be said to be heading, only human time projected onto indifferent duration. Progress is a clock reading meaning into an indifferent landscape, and history is just amoral weather, not a railway timetable or a grand plan for anything. Something always gives. Something always regrows. And the man with the brush will be back next spring, not because he failed, but because that was never the kind of promise the world was in a position to keep.